Okay, I think we're live again. Um, Greetings once again from very quiet downtown Murfreesboro on a Sunday afternoon as I record this. You all are working on your exam essays. Congratulations to those who have turned them in. If you have yet to do so, the due date is, of course, sometime Monday morning. I say 8 o'clock. That's kind of a rule of thumb. I'll probably look mid-morning at the Dropbox, and if enough people have submitted, I will go ahead and download. If you don't make that first deadline, go ahead and submit anyways. Might be a little while before I circle back and I'm able to grade any really late submissions, but always better on your end to have something turned in than not turned in. So that's the first bit of advice. This week, we are beginning preparations for our next major assignment, which is the first thematic essay. So I'll spend some time talking about that on Wednesday and more so on Friday. You'll find that what I'm asking you to do for that assignment builds on the work that you did in earlier discussion postings with Kepler and Galileo. So uh, that's one of the goals for this week. For this week's figures, we have Rene Descartes and Francis Bacon, two very important transformational thinkers whose work really did reshape the idea of science and the ways in which scientists did their work. Uh, as I mentioned last week when we looked at Isaac Newton and Robert Boyle, in terms of time, they actually come later than Bacon and Descartes. However, Bacon and Descartes sort of set the groundwork to for them to reshape the way science was practiced and the way scientists produced new knowledge and discovered new facts about the universe. Your textbook does a marvelous job of explaining that in the introduction that I'll ask you to read on pages 183 through 89. Um, the other key uh, component here is the Royal Society, which we talked some about last week. Bacon's work in particular really provides inspiration and impetus for this group of individuals several decades later to meet and collaborate and really to formulate together this new idea of scientific practice. So Bacon is important for a lot of reasons, and we'll get into some of the key aspects of his writing uh, as the week unfolds. Let's start with Descartes. You've got some good introductory materials. Descartes is best known for the saying cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. And he is a major contributor to the process of deduction, a reshaping of logical chains that move towards a new conclusion or a new fact. He is much more complicated than that, and if you read this week's readings, you can see that, well, he's known primarily as a philosopher. He's also ventures into the realm of physics and talks about motion and the ways the physical principles of the world operate. So we might look at some of those passages as we encounter him in our Zoom meetings later this week. Um, and then we have Bacon, who is, again, a major transitional figure. You've got some biographical information on both that I'll ask you to look at, and also a comparison of the way that Bacon's method and Aristotle's method differed. And so those are important pieces to the puzzle. So please look at those as you are able. Bacon's most important work was called the Novum Organum, or the New Instrument. And if you think back to the ways in which Aristotle was received and the way that later philosophers and later commentators took pieces of his writings and formed a work called the Organon, which was basically a study of how logic works, you can see that Bacon's Novum Organon is sort of a reply, a challenge to Aristotle, the new instrument versus what is implied to be the old instrument. And in the reading for Bacon that I'll ask you to look at for Wednesday's class, among the things he talks about there, and one of the philosophical points he's best known for is his um, interest in why people pay service to inherited knowledge. And he discusses what he calls the four idols, the idols of the theater, the marketplace, the tribe, and the cave, which explain our willingness to resist new ways of thinking and to find comfort in traditional and established patterns of thinking and problem solving and understanding of the world. So that's a key element of the puzzle. Later in the week, we will look at some of a handful of the later aphorisms. I should say the textbook reading and the PDF that I've linked you to of Bacon's aphorisms. Some of them cover the same materials. They're different translations, but they cover the same material. However, the PDF goes further, and I want to look at a couple of the later aphorisms that explain Bacon's principles of scientific experiment and experiential learning in further terms. So that's another component of the subject matter we'll be discussing this week. Lastly, there's a wonderful clip by a philosophy professor named Tom Ritchie, whose work we've encountered before, and whose work is very handy to provide a quick synopsis of key ideas that are useful for the class. But in the one in the one that I linked you to under this week's materials, week 8, he talks about the contrast between Aristotelian deduction and Baconian induction, deductive versus inductive reasoning. Deduction is a belief in first principles and a pursuit of understanding causes, and that is a very much a top-down approach to problem solving and scientific inquiry. That's Aristotle. Bacon, in contrast, is a process of induction, working towards an understanding of particulars that lead to an inference about potential principles and universals. So his is very much a bottom-up approach to problem solving. So Aristotelian deduction, Baconian induction, two key ideas for this week. And one of the things we want to establish is that it's not that one is right or the other is wrong. Scientists use both approaches often in conjunction with each other, but both represent two very different methods of problem solving. So that's enough to get us started for the week. Again, I hope you are able to keep current and keep up with the assignments, and I will look forward to seeing everybody via Zoom on Wednesday. Okay, have a good start to your week.